Hello, my name is Samantha Chaponi, and this is my reference interview analysis presentation. I cannot remember the last time that I actually went to a desk in a library and asked for help with something. My mentality was that I worked in a library. I should be able to find the information myself. It's because of this that I think I really felt how a new patron does when approaching the reference desk for the first time. I knew the topic had to be important to me, and I particularly wanted it to be information that I was currently looking for, so that I would be truly learning something from this interaction. Deciding what to ask was a lot easier than I thought it would be. My son Nicholas was just diagnosed with anemia. They are still running tests to find out why, but as a concerned parent who is hoping that this is due to poor diet and nothing more, I felt that this topic was close to my heart. I started with the face-to-face interaction. I decided to take a general to specific approach. I was prepared to ask a simple question, but I'd hoped that I would be prompted to ask additional questions. I had been to the Fox River Valley Public Library once before to hear Mary Kubica speak, but I hadn't used their services before. When I arrived, I followed the signage to an information desk. Two librarians were sitting at the desk chatting with each other. I started with a general request for a list of high iron foods. I could see the librarian's computer screen from where I was standing, so I was able to evaluate her search strategy. I was disappointed to see that her first instinct was Google, but I remembered that we were taught how to search for reliable information on search engines, so I wanted to give her a chance. She used Google for searches on kid-friendly high iron foods and the daily iron recommendations for young children. She had copied and pasted most of this information into a Microsoft Word document and printed a random article from care.com. After handing me the printout, she asked if there was anything else I needed. I indicated that it would be good to have some information about iron deficiencies in children. I asked for a book this time, hoping to get away from Google. She had a hard time finding something for me and ended up asking for help from a coworker, but the book ended up being exactly what I needed. She even leafed through the book to the section about anemia in toddlers, which was very helpful. I had hoped to get information from a reliable resource, which I didn't feel like I did. If the librarian was going to search Google, I thought she could have used more reliable websites, like the Mayo Clinic. Although I was disappointed with where the information came from, there were a few really helpful things that this librarian did for me within the interaction that a patron would really appreciate. Right up front, she had asked me if I wanted my information online or from a book. Throughout the interview, she asked several times if the information she had given me was satisfactory, and she engaged in some friendly conversation, which lightened the mood. The least helpful thing was the sources she used. I really didn't like that the majority of the information she had given me had been copied and pasted into a Word document. I was sure that the chat portion of this assignment would be easier, but I wasn't sure if I would get the same kind of follow-up that I had gotten in the face-to-face interaction. I chose to use the Arlington Heights Memorial Library to ask my chat question. I work at the Mount Prospect Public Library, which is down the street, and we are always hearing reciprocal borrowers who belong to Arlington Heights rave about their services. I wanted to give it a try myself. I had never used chat reference before at any library. I found out how to start a chat with a librarian right from the homepage. There's a link you can click on that says Chat 24/7, which was really helpful, and it was interesting that you could use it at any time, day or night. When you open the link, you are met with a message indicating that you will need to wait for a librarian's assistance. It took maybe a minute for a librarian to pick up the chat, and she asked how she could help me. There was also a button for you to opt to add your email address to the conversation, so you could receive a transcript of the session. I thought that this was very helpful. You can even choose for your email address to remain anonymous if you'd like. Overall, my initial impression was a good one. I asked the same questions about iron-rich foods, daily recommendations, and iron deficiencies. The librarian asked if I would be picking up this information in the library or if they could email it to me. It would defeat the purpose of this interaction if I came into the library for the information, so I opted for email. After I asked each question, she said that she would send me information on whatever I asked and follow up with if there was anything else she could help me with. I asked my additional questions at that point. She indicated that she would send me information on all the areas I asked for. I had hoped to get information from a more reliable source through this interaction, and I did. The email that the librarian sent didn't take long, and it did include reputable sources like Mayo Clinic, the American Red Cross, and U.S. News. I liked that the librarian asked me several times if there was anything else I needed. This helped bring out my additional questions. I appreciated the option to pick up my information in the library, but it seemed to defeat the purpose of chat reference. The least helpful thing about this interaction was that I had to wait for my information to come through an email. I understand the reason behind putting the information in an email, and this may be a standard practice as I have never participated in a chat reference interview before, but if the information hadn't been satisfactory, I would either have to start the chat over, possibly with a different librarian who didn't know what my original needs were, or reply to the email that I received, which could have been rather time-consuming. Asking my question through chat seemed more convenient, but I'm more of an old-fashioned face-to-face kind of person. I appreciated the interaction with the librarian at the Fox River Valley Public Library a lot more than I appreciated the chat interaction. As with many library patrons, I weighed my choice and satisfaction with the library mostly based on the interaction, rather than on the results. The advantages to face-to-face interactions are that you receive all of your information at once. You don't have to wait for any kind of follow-up. There's something about having a face to match the person you're talking to as well. I like to be able to see who I'm talking to, otherwise I make my own assumptions that can be wrong. Friendly conversations are common in these situations, which helps lighten the mood and encourage comfortability with the librarian. For chat, the advantages are that if your question is somewhat private, you have the option to ask it anonymously. Even if you do give your email address to the librarian, you still have a veil of anonymity. You can ask chat questions from wherever you are and at any library that offers it. You don't even have to be a patron. The disadvantages to face-to-face reference are that there's not a whole lot of privacy if you're asking a sensitive question. You could opt to do an interview in a secluded location, but patrons may feel embarrassed or vulnerable when talking to even just one person about their questions. These seem like some of the really important questions too. It's also really difficult to tell someone that's trying to help you that the information you've given them is not what you wanted. Therefore, patrons may be walking away with information they didn't want rather than tell the librarian to their face that they didn't give them what they really needed or asked for. The disadvantages to chat are that there's often not that personal touch that a librarian might try to add or a friendly comment. You're not in the library, so you're limited on resources. There really are a lot of databases offered remotely, but there are plenty that have an in-library use-only restriction modes, and the librarian is limited on how they can instruct you to use something new. And as with all technology, it is technology, which means that it's prone to glitches, confusion. These were both successful reference interactions. I received personalized service from the Fox River Valley Public Library and excellent resources from the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. I would return to both of these libraries with other questions.